Thank you, and that's very true. I deal with new and used feed. So the good thing about that is I get to drive machinery. That's why I like to do that. But what I really wanted to focus on was the labor side of economic development. We talk a lot about financing and site selection, and the truth is that if you don't have a great workforce, the rest of the stuff isn't really very important. So so where my focus has really been on developing the workforce. I spent about half of my time doing this, and frankly, the reason I got into this was a survival strategy. We need great people, and OEM has hired 300 in the last 3 years, and people say they can't find people. Well, you can find people, but sometimes you have to be innovative on how you get that done. So that's a lot of what I'm going to be talking about. So the comment to do the dual, basically the technical colleges have been working very hard with K-12 systems in order to talk about dual enrollments. And essentially what this is getting kids started on a career path earlier. I was one of those kids. I do some talks on creating success, and one of the slides I put up is my 4th grade report card, which was straight F's in math. There are some of us who aren't academics, and sometimes we need a different connection to get us on a learning path or on a pathway to success. And for me, that was technical education. Thank goodness the school that I went to had woods, it had metals, it had a print shop. Somewhere around the 80s, some of those projects, funding for that started to evaporate, and like arts and athletics and some of those things, those started to go away, which is really too bad. So I always put up this slide about demographics. Basically, I'm sure you've seen this, but 18-year-olds are coming into the workforce at a much slower rate than 65-year-olds are leaving the workforce. And most of the state, the crossover is in 2017. In northwest Wisconsin, it happened in 2011. So part of our challenge is not only are we struggling to find people with the right skills, but there's less people to find. I like to throw this up there because I think sometimes people don't realize this. WTCS graduates, this is statewide, typically earn over $30,000. This is 1- and 2-year graduates out of programs like welding, machine tool, cosmetology, healthcare. What's even better is that in their first 5 years of employment, they can look forward to about a 50% increase. And what's even better than that is the trends in this are exceeding inflation by a very large margin. So these wages, salaries are really accelerating. Here at WITC, graduate wages for associate degrees are breaking $36,000 at this campus, and they can look forward to those same kinds of increases. This is something I like to point out. Depending on whose statistics you look at, between 50% and 75% of careers in the next 10 years are going to require more than high school, but less than a baccalaureate degree. Technology is moving incredibly fast, and what we're finding is that we need to address that technology. What's interesting about this, back in 1911, the continuation schools in Wisconsin were started. That was the forerunner to the technical college system. And when we look back at the scripts of those schools starting in Racine and here and across the state, one of the things they talked about was the incredible speed that technology was moving, and there was this skills gap that caused a need for the continuation schools, things like automobiles and electricity, and they needed people to deal with this stuff. And so what are we talking about today? I mean, today you're carrying more computing power in your pocket than what existed in 1945. It's and you look at the proliferation of technology. Our coffee pots have computing power. You open up a birthday card and it sings a song to you. The incredible embedding of technology, that requires a high level of skills. But one of the things we want to be careful of is we don't want to ever cap education. We want all of our, if somebody comes into a technical college, we want to make sure that when they're done and they've worked in the field for 5 years, that they can take what they learned and go to the university and take the next step. So one of the things we really focus on the state level is the ability to have seamless education, whether it's from the high school into the technical college, or from the technical college into the university, or from the university back to the technical college. Today, we've got 380,000 students in our technical colleges. 10% of them already have a baccalaureate degree, and they're coming back to advance their education. So the one underlying thing that I really want to emphasize is that the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, are kind of the underlying basis for whether it's healthcare, manufacturing, or other areas. That's really an underlying need. My bias is manufacturing, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. When we look at the careers that are, or the education required at OEM, 80% technical college graduates. Only 13% are baccalaureates, about 5% are advanced degrees. And look at that little tiny slice of high school. We're down to 2%. So out of our 500 team members, we have 10 jobs that require high school. I would predict in 3 to 5 years that'll be zero. You know, even if you think about janitors, when you look at the MSDS requirements and you look at the safety and hazardous materials and all of the things they have to deal with, janitors are becoming, you know, complex jobs, more so than what they've ever been in the past. I want to give you some benchmarks on what do these pay. So the OEM average there is the average W-2 earnings from last year. So these are real numbers. They're not old. They're as current as they can be. So a welder coming out of a one-year diploma program here at WITC is going to start at about 17 bucks. They're going to average nearly 54,000. If you look at the top 25%, almost $67,000. Look at a fabricator. 54,000 bucks, 70,000 top tier. Machinist, 58,350. Top tier is 80,000 bucks. We had 4 machinists this year that broke 100,000. The top machinist made 125. You know, and I don't, you know, when I think about how do you break a cycle of poverty, the person, 29-year-old kid from Knapp, grew up in the mobile home park, and I'm not implying anything there other than I don't think they had a lot of resources, was the one that hit $125,000. There are incredible opportunities. Painter, you notice this one's down a little bit, $43,000. A lot of students go into auto body, and this is typically where these come from. So it's kind of a supply and demand issue. Electromechanical, 60 grand. Engineering, starting at 50. 70 in 3 years, easily over 100 in relatively short order. If you look at our overall average, $56,700. Now, I was talking with a legislator about this, and we really need to drive home the concept of math skills, because he and I were having, usually legislative meetings go really well, and you really work hard to be congenial or you know, polite and so on, and he made a comment about, well, the reason that number is so high is because my salary is so high, and I couldn't help it. I said, this is why we need math skills. We have 500 employees. To move that number $1,000 would take a $500,000 increase in my wages. I said, to move that number $10,000 would be $5 million. Do you really think I make that kind of money? That's why we need math skills. Anyway. Northwestern Wisconsin has some incredible opportunities from an educational perspective, from an industry perspective, and from a career perspective. I'm not going to spend much time on this just because I know we have a lot to cover. Whoop, what did I do? There. Technical colleges, 90% of technical college grads get jobs within 6 months. 85% of those in field, and the vast majority of them in Wisconsin. This next statistic is not a Wisconsin statistic. It's a national statistic. I wish I had Wisconsin's. I don't. But frankly, this is an embarrassing statistic. And this holds true in China and the U.S. China's numbers are nearly the same as ours in this regard. 47% of university grads got jobs within 6 months. That's a problem. Only 45% were in field. In other words, if they got a job as a barista and they were in accounting, that was a win. That's not a win. We have some work to do. Graduates are not planning to go where the opportunities are. When we look at, we've got about 70,000 high school seniors in the state, about 64,000 will graduate. Got a little bit of an issue there, but actually we're lead the nation in graduation. So from that standpoint, we're doing a good job. About 50% are destined or planning to go to the university. Actually, about 35% show up. Technical colleges, we see about 22% that are planning, about 17 or 18% show up. The challenge is the ones that don't show up or don't have a plan because, like we said, if you don't get something beyond high school, you're in trouble today. So we have a disconnect where students are going where they're not needed. One of the concepts that Jim Morgan from WMC put out there was a job probability index. And so I mean, if you go buy a used car and you sign a $2,500 loan doc for that, you're going to get more truth in that loan doc about that $2,500 loan than you will get about a career that you're going to go into. I think that's something we have to fix. If you're going to go into a career, you need to know what is the chances you're going to graduate. If you graduate, what are the opportunities? If you can't get a job in your field, you know, if you take accounting, can you go into tax? Can you go into audit? What are the side jobs that you can transition into that still give you a way to be successful? What's your debt going to be? So I'll apologize to Bakke Norman for this. But really, a lawyer? You know, 8 years ago, if we had told law students that you got a 50-50 chance of graduating, if you graduate, you got a 17% chance of landing a job. If you're one of the lucky 17%, you're going to start at $35,000 to $40,000. And oh, by the way, you're going to have $100,000 in debt on average. That's why law students are suing their alma maters for selling them a bill of goods. You know, we need a job probability index, and we need it now. WITC outperforms the state. 91% of their grads are employed within 6 months. In their trade and tech areas, 37,000. In their health areas, nearly 35,000. So they're doing an outstanding job. So we're really encouraging this do the dual, which is essentially earning high school technical college credits. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Probably the important point here is we're not talking about terminal degrees. Everything that we, at the state board, anytime a technical college brings a program to us, we insist on understanding how many of those credits, and our preference is if it's a 2-year associate's degree, that all of those credits transcribe into the university system so you can start as a junior. That's really our objective. It's a challenging one, but it is really our objective. So I want to describe, when we talk about collaboration and what you can do when you work together, this is a program that WITC, OEM, and Baldwin Woodville High School have put together. I've referred to it as the manufacturing pathway. Actually, Baldwin Woodville calls it Baldwin Woodville Industries. But why develop a manufacturing pathway? Really, what we're looking for is, you know, companies need a great pipeline of team members, and quite frankly, the skills gap is a demonstration that we're not getting them. Youth employment opportunities are something that is really important. I really never paid much attention to this. I serve on the Workforce Development Board, and we put a tremendous amount of money into youth opportunities, and I really questioned the value of that until I saw a Harvard study that looked at 25-year-olds. And basically they broke 25-year-olds into two groups, those that had youth employment and those that didn't. The ones that had a youth employment opportunity made $3,000 on average more. Well, if you look at that over a lifetime, that's worth $250,000. It's a huge thing. You know, and I think of my generation, you know, we had paper routes, we had lawn mowing jobs, we had all kinds of things. Well, today, you know, the internet's replaced the newspaper. You know, the law says if you're under 18, you can't use a power mower because it's not safe. I mean, we used to build tree forts and they'd fall down and we'd get hurt. And we learned that engineering is something that's important, you know, but we've taken a lot of those opportunities away from kids. And so we really need to give them an opportunity to explore career opportunities. We need to get rid of the industrial camouflage. You know, we see these big buildings with a logo up in a corner and the Oompa Loompas go in and they come out. We have no idea what they do in there. So we insert an image out of our own experience, which is probably 25 to 40 years old, about what manufacturing really is. I mean, if you go down to EPS has got a Engineered Propulsion Systems has got a little development center down here. They've got some of the world's most advanced manufacturing equipment right here in New Richmond. And you don't understand it. When you drive down the alley, you don't see it, you don't understand it. We need to get people to understand what's really in manufacturing. And the other thing is we need to remove financial roadblocks. And there's a lot of people that, you know, if there's a $20 fee to take a test to get, family doesn't have that 20 bucks. So they don't take the test, so they don't get applications completed the way they need to. We need to overcome some of that. And we need to tear down the silos between institutions, and we all have to reduce costs. So our approach was really a systems approach. We have to act as a system. So WITC President Bob Meyer and Rusty Helen from Baldwin, Woodville, and I got together. We locked ourselves in a room and we said, we're not going to let anything get in the way. We're going to look at this as if we are one, not three individuals. There's free money in the system. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, we hired 300 people. We spent $2.1 million doing it. Well, that's a waste of money. I would much rather take some of that money and put it into a training pipeline and help fund that than go out and try and assess John Q. Public to see that, you know, if they've got the skills and they're not on drugs and they're, you know, I would much rather divert some of that money. So there is free money in the system if we don't work in silos. We have to share resources. Not only do we have to free the money up, but we have to be willing to share it. And we have to be willing to break some rules. I mean, if OEM goes to our insurance company and says, can I have somebody that's 17 years old work in the shop? They'll say, absolutely not. Are you nuts? There's risk in that. And it's like, well, you know, from their perspective, I shouldn't have anybody work in the shop because there's risk in that too. So really, we really have to look at, you know, what do we do? I mean, today you go open a machine tool door, old image, you know, 25 years old, you get your necktie tied up in the thing and you know, pull your head off. But, you know, today you open the door, the machine shuts down. Well, you know, we try not to hurt adults too, you know. So I think we just have to be aware of what the new world is like. So as we look at, you know, how does it work? Early career exploration. Actually, Baldwin Woodville is pushing this earlier, more like the 6th grade instead of 8th now. STEM classes early on. You declare that you're on the manufacturing pathway in the 10th grade. That means you're actually saying, I don't know what career I'm going, but I'm going to go into manufacturing. Curriculum is aligned and applied. Now, this is challenging. You go to an English teacher and say, we want you to teach English in a manufacturing construct or a context, and they kind of look at you like you're from outer space. But that's where we need to go to engage a lot of these kids. We want to get part-time work. The dual enrollment is really important. The assured seat in college, actually there's rules against that. We're still trying to work through that. And then tuition is paid by OEM. So what's in it for OEM? Well, When you look at recruiting costs, we already talked about that, $2.1 million. I can divert some of that money. Hopefully I can save some money and still help fund some tuition and so on. We get a pipeline of workers we already know. Students learn the OEM way. We develop soft skills early in the process. Team members are already living in the school district, so they don't have to commute a long ways. Skilled talent's a competitive differentiator. We know that the company or the state that has the skilled talent is going to win the day, and it feels right. For Baldwin Woodville, what's in it? Well, now there's a plan for those non-academic learners to be successful. Student retention increases. Successful students have happy parents, supportive parents. Partnerships can bridge some of those resource gaps. When we look at what's in it for WITC, I don't know if you've heard about it, but performance funding is coming to higher education. And the technical colleges, as part of our budget request, put in a proposal for developing a performance funding mechanism. So we will be holding our technical colleges even more accountable than they already are for the performance. And when we measure performance, it's all about, did students graduate? Did students get jobs in the areas they were trained, and what kind of money are they making? So recruiting becomes automatic in a program like this for WITC, extends their resources, students come better prepared so we don't have remediation to do, lessens the time for graduation, and it improves the institutional performance. But this is the biggie. What's in it for the student? Well, all this stuff gets taught in context, so it's a lot more interesting. Juniors start part-time, they earn $1,000, enough to whet their appetite. Seniors earn about $5,000. Once they graduate, they go to 20 hours at OEM. They have a lighter load at the technical college because 16 credits were delivered in the technical college. Technical college credits were delivered in high school. That's a half a year they don't have to pay tuition on. It's a half a year of work they don't have to do. It's already done. The half-time work earns them $14,500. So now they can pay for their car, they can pay for their fuel, they can have a little money extra. It takes the money issue off of the table. Tuition is paid through our reimbursement program. The day they graduate, they've got 3 years of seniority at OEM, so they got 3 weeks vacation the day they graduate from the technical college. Learning is leveraged. Lifelong learning becomes seamless. So what's the latest update? I'd made the comment to Rusty Helen, every time I talk to him about money, I got one of these, there is no money. I said, you got a $6 million budget. I don't accept that you have any money, that you have no money. It's a question of priorities. You need to go find some money. And then I made the mistake of saying, if you went and found some money, I could probably match it. Okay. So we were taking a couple of the tech ed teachers down to the International Machine Tool Show just to expose them, and on their way out, Rusty told them, you got $40,000 to buy a CNC machine. So we bought 2. We helped negotiate it. We got a better deal for them. We got some extra controls so they can work on the machines work on the controls before they actually go to the machines. We left some money in the budget so we actually could buy some tooling and some other needed resources. So what's the promise? Students get great careers. We have a pipeline of students that are highly skilled that live nearby. The barriers to success are eliminated. Financial roadblocks disappear, and those with this talented workforce win. So next steps, we need to grow the program. Need to get other companies, other businesses involved. Need to continue to work. Our goal is 16 credits of dual enrollment. We're not quite there yet. That English teacher is a little troublesome. So we got to get that done. And then we need to do some white papers to show other folks the way on how to get this done. And incidentally, the programs that we're going into, all of them, you graduate a 2-year associate's degree here in machine tool, you're a junior at Stout if you decide to go that way. So that's really the the good thing. This is a kind of an in-your-face thing that we do. This is Gold Collar Careers. Is the organization that does a lot of image discussion. And basically what this is it's a list of excuses, you know, guidance counselors don't get it. Well, no, that's not true. You just, you know, sometimes you need to share information. The poor guidance counselors always get the blame. You know, they're dealing with, you know, truancy, they're dealing with drug problems, they're dealing with parents that aren't present. I think on average in our area, there's about 300 students for every guidance counselor. I don't think we can blame them. We need to educate parents. We need to educate teachers and coaches. We need to educate ourselves on where the opportunities are. The other thing that we do is, what we found is that kids don't decide on careers early on, but they do start eliminating stuff. I'm a grandparent now. I got a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-month-old, and I noticed the coloring books. Coloring books are, you know, when you look at the jobs that are depicted in coloring books, there's no problems recruiting people for those jobs. So veterinarians and nurses and school teachers and firemen and policemen, no problem. Okay, so here's a coloring book, and it's got welders, and it's got machinists, and it's got painters, and it's got engineers. And what we're really trying to do is change the image of manufacturing. And the reason is it all ties into success. It all ties into, you know, if you call economic development success, if everybody's successful, economic development is great. So I'll end it there and turn it back over to Tom.
Great job, Mark.